We're back.
Hi, everybody. So I want to apologize. 1 second, please. So Facebook is not playing nice tonight, and we broadcast live on Facebook typically, but tonight we're going to have to. Please mute if you don't unmute. Thank you. So I'm broadcasting tonight's meeting to a YouTube page, and that is going out now to our Facebook page as well. So I apologize. There seems to be some kind of technical difficulty tonight with Facebook. So we are broadcasting on the YouTube, and I'm also going to record this meeting to our cloud and then put it on our Facebook page later. So I apologize to those of you who wanted to watch it on Facebook Live. Hopefully they see the link and they can watch it on YouTube Live. I'm also going to make a note in our event page really quick in case anybody's in there and is looking for it. Please find here. So apologies again for those of you who are joining us outside of the Zoom. Good evening, everybody. I'm trying to see who all is here. Great. We have a lot of people here tonight. And Rose is here. And since Rose is here, Rose, would you like to chair the meeting?
Sure. Thanks, Isaac. Welcome, everyone. I just came off of the Measure A discussion, and I think they might be recording that, so you can all view it later as well. So I'll call the meeting to order, or I think you already called the meeting to order. So I would like, did we already get someone to take minutes, Isaac?
No, we've just started, and I have the minutes open. I will take the minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I would like, our first agenda item is we have a Sacramento Police Department representative to discuss what's been going on in the neighborhood, answer any questions. I think I see.
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name is Brent Konayuki. I'm actually the Swing Shift Watch Commander, and I have geographic responsibility for the Tahoe Park area. I've been in this assignment since December, and obviously with the COVID thing, it's been a little bit weird in terms of getting to a lot of these community members. So thank you, Sandra, for inviting me to the meeting this evening. So a couple things I know she wanted an update on. So the crossing shooting that happened over at 2900 Ramona, everybody's familiar with that shooting. The male subject in that, we were actually had some gang detectives that were there. We're actually looking for him and located him because he had very distinct neck tattoos. Once they made contact with him, he ended up drawing a handgun from a bag that he was carrying. And unfortunately, officers had to use lethal force. The fortunate part about the entire incident is one of the residents was about to go outside of the building, and the suspect wanted to let them inside. Fortunately, that did not occur, so it didn't turn into some type of active shooter or barricaded subject or hostage situation. So that was good. We've done a lot of contacts with the Crossings apartment complex, and they've been very receptive to a lot of our recommendations. And one of the agreements was they're going to add security and try to keep non-residents out of the apartment complex area, which has reduced a lot of the problems. The other issue that we had is the PD side didn't have key access to the buildings. So they've since that time, they've added the Knoxbot key. So we do have access to the apartment complex. So any questions at all on the shooting that had occurred there?
Briefly, Lieutenant, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Isaac Gonzalez. The Neighborhood Association actually worked pretty hard on this project through the development stage to put in as a condition of approval 24-hour security. Is it your observation that that was not the case during the shooting, that they did not have a monitored patrol service on site?
I believe during the incident there was security. I'm not quite sure, I'll be honest, if they do have 24-hour security, but I know since the incident they've upped their security that's on site at this point.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but we will have similar proposals come before the planning department and the city in the future. Do you believe it is advantageous for complexes like this to have 24-hour monitored on-site security?
I would say if they can afford it, I would definitely recommend it, because in a lot of ways, that's just a deterrence of a lot of the problems and issues that you do have in large apartment complex areas. So I would absolutely recommend it.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
The other issue that wanted to be discussed was, I guess, along Reading by 50, there's a large homeless camp. And I know this is kind of, the homeless camps are a very large issue. I spoke with Sergeant Juan, who's our impact sergeant, and he talked about, I guess they're fencing the area off. So Caltrans is going to be doing some freeway upgrades there. So that's why they blocked it off. That area right there is Caltrans property, and pretty much they're staying in line with the county public health directive, which is really just to educate a lot of the homeless subjects and kind of direct them to different services that are available to them. So that's pretty much what's happened up to that point. The other part is that we reached out to a lot of the homeless subjects there, and we asked for them to, because we realized that they gather garbage, to kind of put it closer to the street. So that way it makes it a lot easier. So when we come around periodically to collect it, we're able to collect the garbage and kind of clear the area out as best as possible.
This is Sandra. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Brent, for coming out this evening. I really appreciate it. And I spoke to you over the phone, so I really appreciate it. And the garbage has been better. I am really concerned about the fencing, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. So I'll follow up though with Caltrans to see what's going on with it. And then just as an aside, I don't know if, who I can check with, but they've got graffiti now going out there. There's a camper. I mean, it's growing. That camp is growing. And I understand that they have the right to live in public places, but maybe on the side, if I can talk to Eric or somebody from Eric's staff about the graffiti, I'd appreciate it. But thank you so much for your help.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I guess the final thing I have is just, I kind of pulled our crime stats for the Tahoe Park area. And for the second quarter compared to 2019, total property crimes are down, which is good. The only thing with property crimes that remained about the same was motor vehicle thefts. And then violent crimes, same thing. That includes homicides, rapes, robberies, and felony assaults. Those are also down for the second quarter of this year, which is good. So primarily, a lot of the issues that we're getting kind of closer to the Tahoe Park area is up and down Stockton Boulevard. And then some of it spills over to the neighborhood. The other thing that I've heard a lot about is speeding. I don't know if anybody could do that, if you're getting a lot of issues along 21st Avenue. 5th.
Hi, yes, Lieutenant, I'm Rachel Gregg. I'm a community member. I've filed with 311. My concern about the speeding that I'm seeing on 21st Avenue. So I wanted to go ahead and just respond to you bringing that topic up and say that I've been speaking with the traffic representatives from the traffic department in the city, and I'm going to be circulating a petition to have speed lamps installed on 21st Avenue. Of course, I'm just waiting for the air quality to improve to the point that I can actually go out and talk with my neighbors.
Sure.
For interest in speed lamps as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have installed the speed alert signs. Those have been up there a couple times the past couple months. But the other part is what we need. If you guys have specific vehicles, like if you could get a vehicle license plate on a vehicle that's speeding, that would absolutely help us out. And then if we have kind of a specific time where it tends to occur more, that in that instance, I could kind of try to get our traffic motor officers out there to kind of do some enforcement during that time. So if I could get specific times, that would help. And then, like I said, some license plate numbers as well, just for vehicle descriptions.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm hesitant to invite police officers into the community again, given that the crossings incident did escalate into the shooting of a perpetrator. So while I recognize that person probably had nefarious intent, wasn't up to any good, I'd feel much more confident inviting the police into the neighborhood if the outcome was non-lethal force.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there's
if I
also a
might,
significant problem on 14th Avenue.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There's also speeding on 14th Avenue has gotten to the point where it's a drag strip. I'd say it's between the light on 58th and Stockton. And
58th,
there's
okay.
absolutely no signs there at all. And they pick up speed, and there's particularly some obnoxious motorcycles. But it's on the weekends, particularly, it's deafening. I mean, the noise is just offensive, and I'm working on putting some statistics together, and I'm going to make a presentation at the next meeting. But there are no signs at all between 58th Street and Stockton. It's just a freeway.
Okay. And
So, and it's
when you
very
said
dangerous.
weekends,
I'm
when you
sorry,
said weekends, was there a specific time on the
weekends
weekend?
are worse. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
And there's a couple of motorcycles that are particularly egregious.
Okay. Thank you.
But if I can get a description, now I know where to give it to give it to you, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So if I might, it's a pleasure to hear that we got Eric on there and compliment the city council to continue to support your funding. I think that's a big issue, and I'm glad to hear we're not reducing the funding for your operation. We can't ask you to do more if we're asking you to, if we're cutting your dollars. So thank you, Eric, and your team. The other one is earlier the talk about all the trash. And I don't know how you, Eric, is there any way that you can have dumpsters set where these collection people are, because they get the trash? I've noticed some places they put it in bags, but then the bags sit there because there's no garbage cans for pickup or anything.
Yeah, Jim,
And
yeah,
if those could be picked up on a regular basis, you know, the truck comes around, pick up a couple bins and empty them and tell those guys they got to put the trash in. But if they have no place to put the trash, you can't expect much from them.
well, I do want to thank Sandra also and you for bringing that up, and Tyler in my office, who has been constantly working with our solid waste department to make sure that we address that piece there. And it's surprising how much trash an individual person can make. Now multiply it by I shouldn't be surprised. Look at my garage. Come look at my garage, and then you'll see. But yeah, so Tyler has been consistently working with our solid waste department in our office, and I do want to thank Lieutenant Brent Kanayuki for also being involved in this. And you know, that side is a tricky one, because I drove by there today again, and they're camping directly underneath the state easement. So we're also reaching out to the state folks. But either way, we're going to be out there looking at the trash and making sure that we have regular activity to pick it up.
Yeah, put those dumpsters out there, and maybe they can be encouraged to put it in there. I know some of the guys are pretty good. They want a clean space, but no place to put all their trash, and tell their fellow tent mate to use the trash bin and then pick it up twice a week. The trucks are going around. It ain't that. I know they're not going to pay for it, but we're still paying for it one way or another.
Well, we will pick it up when it's out in the right of way. That's for sure. You know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you, Lieutenant I'm sorry.
Kanayuki.
Kanayuki. Thank you for joining our meeting.
And what I'll do is I will email my email and my cell phone number to Sandra, so that way she could distribute that to everybody in the association. So you have that as well.
Great, thank you. Next on our agenda, we have a presentation. You may have noticed we have several people who are joining us today who aren't always on here. So we have, we're gonna have a human trafficking update. We have Councilmember Guerra. We have Tess from St. John, I believe. Jose Mendez from the city of Sacramento. We have Faith from the Sacramento Regional Family Justice Center. And we have Cindy Stinson from Community Against Sexual Harm, also known as CASH. So I will turn it over to all of you.
Great. Thank you very much, Rose, and all the Tahoe Park Neighborhood Association folks. First, I want to thank everyone for this effort. I remember one of the first meetings I came to, in Tahoe Park when I started coming to the neighborhood association. I think it was before there was Sergeant Stinson, and I don't know if Cindy's on. I know today's also their fundraiser, and she was going to pop on and off. But I think Bill Mottmans was the chair at the time of the neighborhood association, and we were discussing the issue of human trafficking back then, and the issue of how to help those people in need. And so Community Against Sexual Harm at that time was doing a lot of active work. Since that time, this neighborhood association and all of our providers out there have done an enormous amount of work to really get at some strategies to change the dynamic and not just go after the people who have been exploited through sex trafficking, but go after the actual profiteers and the people taking advantage of people. And as I would say, this issue today is modern day slavery. When we've had our providers and officers go out there into some of the massage parlors or do the stings, they found that they've been able to help and pull individuals who had no English ability, no family connection in the area, and were just looking for a way to escape. And that's, I think, the important thing that we want to talk about today is the holistic approach. Today, we also have the Sacramento Regional Family Justice Center, who also is involved in this issue to make sure that we have people that have those actual resources. And there's an item before the council coming to be able to look at a different tool other than just the penal system to go after the profiteers and to really make a dent at the issue of human trafficking that's happening. And it's unfortunate that it's not just happening here in the neighborhood. It's happening through every commercial corridor throughout our city and our region. And sadly, we've seen it increase even more so during COVID. The report that we had from Captain Bassett and also our officers who are doing the human trafficking information is that those numbers have gone up even more so now that we've been in COVID. So I don't know if Cindy is still on yet they're due tonight's the cash fundraiser. So if you guys wanted to help and support them, that's also going on at the Old Oak Park Brewery, but they're doing some online thing. So if she pops on, and we'll switch over to her because I know she's working on that. But if not, I want to pass it over to Tessa St. John's here, who has been working on this issue to make sure that we build up the standard of our current massage businesses so that we don't allow the profiteering that's happening to take advantage of so many in our city. And also the fact that we're not alone in this. The city of San Jose, and Tessa can correct me on the numbers, of their 300 businesses, over a third of them were found to be illegal and using it as a front for human sex trafficking. So with that, I'll pass it over to Tessa St. John to talk about the ordinance that's coming and our multiple, and then after that, I'll go to Faith to talk about how we're working with our providers and the resources we put out to also our agencies to help with housing, with the legal advice, with the support services, and support with their kids. So with that, thank you, Rose, and we'll pass it over to Tessa St. John's.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, council member. This is my old neighborhood, so I see some familiar faces, so it's so nice to join you. We are working, as the council member said, on just one piece of this issue, which is specific to the massage industry. And, I'm not in law enforcement. This is not a law enforcement approach, but as Councilmember Guerra said, we're trying to look at it from different perspectives. So our goal with this new ordinance is to expand everyone looks like they're frozen. Am I still talking? I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, thank you, Rose. Is to kind of expand the requirements for massage businesses. So step one is to require all massage businesses to obtain a City of Sacramento permit. And that enables the city to have more control. They're able to suspend or revoke a permit. Right now, most of these massage businesses do not have a special business permit, and that makes it very difficult for the city to take action when there is illicit activity going on. So step 2 is to expand some of those operational standards on those businesses. So what that looks like is we've taken best practices from other cities as well as recommendations from the state massage council on what kind of signs you will see in these massage businesses when there is human trafficking or prostitution occurring. So things, and so if you're able to then put those standards into the city code, code enforcement or the police department could go in, and instead of having to actually see illegal activity to get to do undercover stings, they can actually address these through an administrative process. So things like requiring adequate outdoor lighting, requiring appropriate attire, requiring that you can actually see into the lobby of the businesses, because that's a very common thing that they really block out the view. Prohibiting using those commercial locations as residences. That's something they see a lot with human trafficking. They go into the businesses and it's obvious that the women are living there. Prohibiting condoms in massage rooms. So things like that. So then that would enable city staff to go in and they could issue citations, they could issue notices of violation, and they could even suspend or revoke the business permit so it can no longer operate. And as Councilmember Guerra said, really our goal here is to move away from penalizing the women that are very often victims in this situation. So unfortunately, a lot of times when PD does an undercover sting or even code enforcement goes in and there might be people operating there that aren't properly permitted, they're issuing citations or they're arresting the individual women, which is not helping really the issue, because it's very easy at that point to, the business just brings in somebody else and they don't miss a beat. So this would kind of allow us to go after the business owners. As Councilmember said, those are the profiteers. It also, in some cases, would allow the city to even go after the property owner if they're continuing to maybe lease the property to people that are not properly permitted through the city. Another thing that's been very successful in other cities is to kind of break the cycle of those problem locations is if a permit is revoked at one location, the city can actually prohibit any massage business from operating there for up to 2 years. So frequently what we see is there's one location where there's a massage business, maybe the city's able to close it. However, it just changes name, it changes ownership, it's kind of a shell game and they just continue to operate and it's the same issues. So that's been very successful. I don't want to go on too long, but if anyone has any questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, thank you, Tess. I wanted to, I see Cindy Stinson joined us, and I know she's in the middle of fundraising mode, and it has been tough for a lot of the nonprofits. So I don't want to, I want her to get back to the fundraising mode, but she wanted to come on and wanted to say hello, but also talk about, the good work that Community Against Sexual Harm has been doing and working with them. So Cindy, if you don't, I get you got to get back on, go ahead and jump in and say hello. And I know you've been to a lot of these meetings. It's probably your first TPNA meeting.
Hello to my favorite neighborhood association, Tahoe Park. How are you all? I've missed you.
Missed you.
So, have you guys are talking about the massage ordinance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just have to say this is like so practical to have code enforcement involved more in this. And Eric's just been great at kind of cutting through, I guess I would say, the bureaucracy of it and just really helping us to come up with a really practical solution that isn't necessarily a drain on police resources, that we come in when we need to come in, but we can have other city agencies help us beforehand. So we're very excited about it.
And Cindy, if people wanted to help Cash, how can they do it?
Depends. I mean, sometimes we could use volunteers. It's always clothes. The hygiene items for our women are huge. So donations of clothes and hygiene items. We always need bras and brand new underwear and things like that. 60% of our clients are homeless. And there's always good old cash too.
And if someone wanted to give you the good old green dollar or cash or support you financially, how could they do that?
they can donate on our website, www.cash and then SAC for Sacramento, so cashsac.org. And I don't know if there are any other questions I can answer for you before I have to run back to this. We're literally having it's a non-event kind of a fundraiser with not very many people tonight, but it's our annual event.
Well, thank you for doing it. Rose, I don't know if any of the board members have questions.
I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
So I'm just curious. I mean, obviously it sounds like this ordinance would be in conjunction with an organization like yourself that's helping the women. So I guess my question is, you know, if the city goes in on an ordinance and does a code enforcement, what's to prevent those women from just being moved to a different location? Is there something happening in conjunction with that to get the women help so they are taken out of sex trafficking?
So there's like, this is always one of the challenges is the businesses will get closed down and open other places. And so we're trying to take a smarter approach to identifying the owners of these, right? So if they go to move to a new location with a different name of the business, that we are able to put a spotlight on them. And for, you know, Cash's part, we get the referrals. So if we're doing whether it's some type of an operation at the massage parlor, then we have advocates there for the women. But nothing really prevents them from going and starting another business other than us just knowing who the owners are and really putting a spotlight on them. And then here's the other thing. So Rose, the other thing that our city's been really doing well the past, sorry, that was my sister putting her hand on my head. The other thing that our city's really been doing well the past year is that the way they've been going after the owners is by, I would say, kind of what they do with they put a fine on them, so an admin penalty, but instead of taking it an admin penalty is they get them to agree to a stipulated judgment where they make a donation to organizations like Cash or My Sister's House. So it's a form of restorative justice, because instead of just paying money back to the city, they're paying money to the organizations that are helping the women that they're victimizing.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to thank the providers, because they have gone in to make sure that they do a warm handoff and making sure that they don't get lost in that pipeline too. And even if they do get to the point where they're before a judge, I know Cash has started a program to help them give them an alternative to jail and be able to go to workforce and be able to get resources. And Cindy, what is that called again?
It's called Reset. And it's basically alternative sentencing program. So if the women are arrested on a charge of prostitution, then they can voluntarily choose to do an 8-week program at Cash. It's free. We don't charge them any money. And if they complete the 8-week program, then they can have their charges dismissed at the end.
Well, thank you, Cindy, which means because it's free, well, that's why we ask you to help Cash with some cash if we can. So so I appreciate you for being out here today, and thanks for taking the time away from your fundraiser to
thank you, and
neighborhood up.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Tahoe Park Neighborhood Association. I love you guys.
Bye, Cindy. Thanks.
You're
And then
awesome, Cindy.
we'll
Take
go
care.
ahead and go to Faith Whitmore, who is with the Sacramento Regional Family Justice Center, and they do a lot of the legal work, because it's hard to get, making sure that there's wraparound services and they don't get lost in the system. So Faith, and they're here in District 6, not that far from Tahoe Park, over here on Power Inn Road and Ramona Avenue off of 14th Avenue. So Faith.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and we are so blessed to have Councilman Guerra at the forefront of so many of these issues with the City Council. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank him on behalf of all of those we serve, who are the victims of domestic violence and elder abuse and human trafficking. And also, I have the deepest respect for Cash. They do amazing work right there in Oak Park, and I call them the boots on the ground organization. And we're lucky in our community, because there are a number of agencies that serve these victims, and we all really do our best to collaborate with each other. So what the Family Justice Center has to offer is case management for a lot of these folks and legal services. So what happens a lot of the time is if there's a victim, they need some hope. That's our tagline, is that hope thrives here. And we're a one-stop center for these victims. So they can come to the Family Justice Center. Of course, everything we do is free as well. So with no appointment needed, it's a walk-in service. We've remained open through this pandemic because we know how critical these services are, as domestic violence and human trafficking and elder abuse, especially all three of these have just skyrocketed since the pandemic. So we've remained open, and we're grateful we can do that. So people can come in, they may not even know what they need, but we can have this whole, I call it a menu of resources, and we always work with the victims. We don't tell them anything to do, but we offer them lots and lots of options and help them choose what's best for them. And we do have legal services. We have attorneys on site who spend almost all of their time doing temporary restraining order petitions. And we walk them through that process, which is a little bit more complicated than most of us understand it to be. But we don't let go of these people until they're really moved from a place of violence and threats and loss of hope to a place of safety and a place of hope. And we do that together with Cash and City of Refuge there. They work with a lot of the human trafficking victims also in Oak Park. We work together with Weave and my sister's house. So again, there are lots of resources. And I guess what I would want you all to know as a neighborhood association is that these services are available and they are free. So if you know anybody in any of those categories that needs help, please let them know. And if you just send them to the Family Justice Center, if we're not the right ones, we'll certainly do the warm handoff to make sure that they get where they need to be, because we work together, and we want these people to have a good chance of a different kind of life than they've had.
Well, thank you, Faith. And I think this was just, wanted to make sure that folks understood, because there were questions about how massage businesses were opening up, sometimes the proliferation of them, and what we're doing to do a holistic approach of not just the police stings that are historically the way that we addressed issues, but looking at stopping the revolving door of the issue, helping those that have been victimized so that they don't fall in an issue where they don't have resources, they don't have housing, they don't have money, they don't have those pieces where they become locked in that situation. And at the same time, making sure that we elevate and protect those real legitimate businesses that are doing good work in the massage industry, who have been hit pretty hard right now. And so it's one of those issues where we're trying to help everyone at the same time. And Tessa, I don't know if maybe you can talk a little bit about how significant of an issue and it's grown, and now what our hopes are. When is this coming to council again? Do you know the exact date?
We don't know the exact date because, as you said, this really is a bit of a balancing act, because obviously, as those of you that utilize massage therapy, it's a great industry. There's many people that are operating very small businesses. So the city is really trying to balance the need for putting these permits in place. Permit fees are supposed to help cover the cost to the city to enforce it and to implement the program. And so we're really trying to make sure that we have a comprehensive fee structure so that it is not too burdensome to the small businesses. So it should be coming probably in the next month or two, but we're just trying to really iron out that fee structure right now. And yes, thank you for reminding me, council member, because I did want to correct you. The San Jose actually implemented similar changes, and they ended up, after increasing their enforcement and putting some of these operational standards in place, they had closed almost 60% of the massage businesses in San Jose. So it was even more than a third. Wow. And as you know, we don't have, just because the enforcement has been limited in Sacramento, we don't really have comprehensive numbers, but we do know that California in general is, a recent study said that about 35% of illicit massage businesses in the country are in California. So human trafficking in general is a very big issue in California. We know it's a big issue in Sacramento specifically. So we certainly have reason to expect that many of our massage businesses would be our fronts for some of this activity. So, you know, our goal really is to increase enforcement, put these permits in place. You know, ideally we increase enforcement for a couple years. We're very successful. We are able to close down a lot of the problem businesses. Our code will now match very closely to Sacramento County's code. So instead of these businesses kind of just being pushed into the county, or right now being pushed into the city because one is more restrictive, hopefully they will just, you know, decide that the Sacramento area is not a very hospitable place for this activity, and then we can kind of reevaluate the enforcement and activity and things like that. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Tessa. And I want to thank you for all the providers for their work, and also all of those industry folks in the massage therapy industry who participated to make this better. I'll make a plug in for a Tahoe Park massage therapist, you know, Liz and her family, who started Haven, who are helping you know, a lot of women who are in pregnancy and through birth who need massage therapy, and going out into areas where they don't have a lot of services. Again, we have a lot of great services there, but there are people who are taking advantage of that. So Rose, I don't know if there's questions from the board on this, but we do appreciate the consistent support that the Tahoe Park Neighborhood Association has given in the past for all of these organizations.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Tessa, I think. Go ahead.
I did see in the chat that Rachel did have a question. So I don't know if you want me to address that or. Yeah. I think it's a really good question. For those of you that didn't see it, she was asking about she expressing a concern about prohibiting condoms in the massage rooms. Obviously, we don't want to make the business less safe for the women. I mean, part of the goal in this ordinance is to protect the women and provide them more protection. So obviously you can see the benefits of having condoms. If the activity is going to go on, then of course we want them to be safe. So I think that's a very legitimate concern. It's something that we're looking at. The prohibition on condoms is recommended by the State Massage Council as a best practice, and it is used in other cities and counties. But the issue that you brought up, Rachel, has been raised, and so we are looking at that. I think a lot of it has more to do with kind of the way that the city envisions enforcing this ordinance as a more holistic approach. So the plan is not to like go into a business, see that there are condoms out and say, you know, you need to put those condoms away, or you can't have condoms here. It's really more about the city having the ability to build a case against the business. So it's about going in and seeing, you know, a bunch of different signs that signify that there might be something going on there, and then addressing that with the business owner and possibly shutting them down. But, you know, I do think it is a real concern. I think it's a good point, and it's definitely, you know, one of those things we don't want to see unintended consequences from the ordinance. So we are looking at it.
There was a question from Donna that maybe Jose Mendez might be able to answer, or Tess, about the recent massage establishment that opened up on Broadway and 58th. And if there's some reason to believe that that may be a trafficking site. And I always hate to immediately presume that just because a business opens up that there's something illicit. And I know that members of this organization have been wanting to make sure that if it's a great business, let's support it. If it's an illegitimate business, let's shut it down. So Jose, can you answer that? Or do we know if there's any issue with that particular location?
No complaints to date. I think the benefit of the ordinance is we wouldn't know that place opened, and we really didn't know until you guys shared that with us. So the benefit of the permit is we'll know before they open, because they'll have to get a permit. Currently, they don't have to obtain any special permit. No concerns for that specific location that I know of, but if there are concerns, feel free to file a complaint with 311 and we'll follow up.
Great, thank you, Jose.
And then, council member, if I can add, so right now there's a tremendous challenge with routinely inspecting these locations or proactively inspecting these locations. We'll show up and we usually get denial to inspect to verify that they're meeting certain requirements. The benefit of this ordinance is they'll have to give us access. If not, they're subject to revocation of their permit or suspension of their permit. So that's some leverage that we can use to gain access to ensure compliance with the code.
No, thank you, Jose. And that's a good point because it becomes a whack-a-mole when either you or PD or even the providers come in. It's a shell game.
Another thing too is oftentimes when we do inspect, all of a sudden nobody's providing massage, right? So everyone's either the janitor or just there to assist a friend. One of the things that the ordinance will require is a registry of who all is allowed to provide massage at that location. So we as code enforcement officers can go in and look for those specific persons and ensure that they're licensed and that they're meeting the requirement. And then they can't say, hey, I'm just here providing some other service.
If I might, it sounds like outstanding work moving forward here, and in one of those things that people don't get a proper credit for because it's not one of those hero kind of things in the forefront. But it really has an impact in, we like to think neighborhoods, but it really has an impact on individuals. So that's a good one. The other, but I'd like to raise a question has to do with age, because I heard that in the trafficking area, that in the ones they just did a major raid, I don't know, somewhere in the United States, and 70% of the kids of those being trafficked were kids. And how much, is there an age factor in what you're encountering, and how can that be impacted?
Of the facilities that we've inspected, I guess maybe fortunately, we haven't found any children. The ordinance actually requires that any person providing massage or even in the establishment, Tessa, correct me if I'm wrong, must be 18 and over. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
So minors or persons under 20 or not under 18 won't be allowed in the facility for any reason whatsoever. So that should address that concern.
And Faith, I don't know if you have any information, but my understanding was that it's less in the massage parlors, but more on the street issue where we encounter younger ages.
Right. The age is, unfortunately, it can go way down. And what we found is that sometimes that happens because parents are trafficking their own children. So it can start very, very young. It's pitiful and it's horrible. But yeah, it doesn't happen in the parlors so much as on the streets or, on the internet, etc.
I wanted to thank all of our presenters, Faith, Councilmember, Cindy, Tessa, St. John, and Jose. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think that there probably are some neighbors who had no idea any of this was happening. And I know there are others who are very supportive of all of the work you do. And like James said, really are doing really important hero type work of saving these women and making a difference. So we will post additional information. It looks like there's some additional information in the chat being posted. And if there's any other additional information any of our speakers would like to share, feel free to put it there. But I think we'll wrap up this conversation for now with really a big thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all our city staff and folks out there, or both code, law enforcement, or providers. Also do want to thank Terry and Bill who brought this, made me aware of this issue, not only recently but also early on, and introduced me to Cindy Stinson and the organization too. So thank you all, and appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
And you can all feel free to stay on if you'd like. We're going to move on into the next part of our agenda, which is actually approving our agenda. So approving our agenda based on what we've already gone through. Can I have our board approve our agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Oh, All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the approval of our August minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the August minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approving our minutes from August?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We will make sure and have those posted for everyone to see on our website. President's report. Okay, my report. So we had our board planning session actually on, was it yesterday? Saturday. And the board got together and talked about, we first opened the meeting with a theory of change discussion to talk about, get a better understanding of what we'd like to see for our neighborhood, check in to see where we are now and how we get our ideal results. So everyone on the board went around and discussed what those were for each other. And there was a lot of similarities that we shared. Board members want to communicate more with our neighborhood. Board members want to make sure that you all have a lot of various information from different departments and are informed and can be active members of your community. And we also noted that there was a lot we could do to improve. So we talked about that. We also discussed our budget in light of COVID, and we are going to have our treasurer, Jack, taking a look a little bit more in depth about that. And we talked about different committees that we have and how we can improve in those committees. So I think each of our board members who was able to attend that and take some time, it was a 2-hour-long meeting, and we really were able to come together and look to what we're going to do in this upcoming year. I also had an update with Councilmember Guerra, and we talked about many of the things we just discussed. So we talked about the massage parlor ordinance, we talked about the incident at the crossings, we talked about the homeless camps. We also talked about the 58th and Broadway signal. It sounds like they're just waiting on parts for that to be completed. And there is some resurfacing happening in North Tahoe Park. And then finally, for my update, we had 2 board members who resigned this past month, Catherine Rayleigh and David Orcutt. So I wanted to thank them for their service, for serving on our board. Both of them were active members in our fundraising and events committee, and I really appreciate their help with that. And finally, I just want to shout out to all of our neighbors who've been helping with our unhoused and just helping our neighbors in general, especially during all of the big heat wave that we had, and now of course the fires. Also a shout out to our firefighters and everyone working to make sure that we are all healthy and safe. So that is my update. Any questions from the board about my update? Okay, moving on to our treasurer's report. I see we have Jack here tonight.
We have a current balance of $23,524.68, of which $3,011.94 is in our general fund. Our scholarship fund for this year is $1,279.91. We have $4,000 in scholarships to be distributed out for new students. Our garden club, the community garden, has $232.83 in it. And the Broadway improvements has $15,000.
Thank you, Jack. Next, we have our TPNA committee reports. So I will start with our beautification committee with Isaac.
Thank you, Rose. Just to let everybody know, during the board retreat, the beautification committee did not ask for a budget for the year fiscal ending in June. We do not anticipate having any costs because we do not anticipate having any events through that. So actually, if that remains the case, I'd ask that we take the committee off future agendas until post-COVID.
Okay, thank you for that update. We
Yep.
can do that. I'm going to throw it back to you again for communications.
So with the resignation of board member Dave Occult, I'm now the sole co-chair of the communications committee. We did have a good meeting about 4 weeks ago, just after the August meeting. We discussed some processes and timetables for alerting neighbors about future meetings. You may have received more emails this month than you did for the August meeting. I can see by our attendance this month that that's probably the case and it is working. We also provided additional notice on Facebook early and often with Zoom links to make sure people had enough opportunity to post. We had we had community members who joined the committee who offered to help provide additional assistance with specific social media platforms, and we created a matrix breakdown of what we have. We decided to follow up after what we anticipated would be a discussion during the board retreat about other communication matters and this meeting, which is happening now. So I will put out a call to those who joined us previously to join us for this as well. And then also just to the board really quick, you may have seen an email from me today following up on the communications question out of the board retreat. We can discuss that either on email or here, but basically I try to provide some options for timely information that may hit the president's email to go to committees where it is timely and needed for expedient response. So I set up a couple of options on how that could be remedied. Please feel free either to ask for me to elaborate now or look at your email and ask me a question or the board a question in that way. And whatever the board would like to do, we can come to a solution that addresses what we talked about in the board retreat.
Thank you for that update. I'm not seeing any board members with questions or comments.
Oh, I just have one. Isaac, thank you for sending out the email on that and setting up the email on the communications. And I'm wondering, I have some questions on that. And I'm wondering on the next communications, maybe committee, can we talk about that a little bit more? And some of that for me is like the tools of like how to and whatnot. But I think we've done some good work on the communications committee. And I just hope we can continue that. But so if we do, can you just let me know?
Sure, I'll let all the board members know the opportunity of when we pick a date. And if you want to come, please do. And if you have any topics you want to talk about, we'll add it to that agenda.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, garden committee update, Nancy.
The garden, not much. It's about cleanup time. All the tomatoes are almost done. So we're getting ready to plant our fall garden. And that's about all.
Thank you. And if you haven't been by the community garden yet, if you drive by in the very front, there's a lot of flowers, so you can check those out. Kelly with our membership update.
Hey everyone, just welcoming anyone who wants to participate in membership. I mean, the goal is just to get more people involved in the neighborhood association, but also to get more ideas from neighbors and to see how we can kind of better engage and just be a better neighborhood association. So please let me know if you want to be involved.
Thanks, Kelly. Events fundraising, there was a note in the chat who will be the co-chair or the chairs of those committees as of now. Thank you for asking, Lisa. We don't have a chairperson yet. So if somebody from that committee would like to step up and volunteer, that would be awesome. But I think we're going to be kind of reaching out to that committee to see what the next steps are for that.
Rose,
I-
we did have a meeting last Tuesday, so there's a
Okay.
couple things that that we had discussed.
Go for it, Jack.
So we have our Chipotle, the 22nd, so a week from this Tuesday, is our event. We need to get that out on our social media so we can try to make some money off that. And then we also discussed, there was an e-waste, I forget, I think it was Lisa that may have brought that up, but we had discussed an e-waste event that it would just be us being there, probably on a Saturday. So that's about it, unless Terry has anything else.
No, I followed up with Tahoe Elementary School because Dave in the last fundraiser, the month before that I missed, had suggested about
It's hard to hear you, Terry.
the backpacks. And we decided that the backpacks weren't going to be good. And we called the school and we had suggested about papers and pens because they were going through the papers. Parents had been saying about the paperwork. Right now they're going to get back to us because they said they don't need anything. They've had the paper, and if anything comes from anybody, they have to isolate it for 4 days and go through it and pick. And they said that that wouldn't help them right now, and that they were going to think of something else to come to us. And basically, we were just letting them know Tahoe Parks Neighborhood Association was still there for them if they needed something or whatever. And they said they would think about it and they would get back to us and thank us very much for even doing it. But right now, I think they're so overwhelmed with the social, school districting and stuff but right now they don't need anything from us.
Thank you, Terry. I also see Lisa on. Lisa, do you want to share, I think, about the e-waste event?
I do. Thank you. And thank you, Jack, for bringing it up. I'm glad that it was discussed, and I am happy to organize any of the drop off or pick up information that we talked about on the fundraising call. But I haven't been on some invitation lists, I think. So if it's a non-board participation call, please add me. I'm happy to text you my information so that if I can get that date on the calendar, we can get it rolling.
Great, Lisa. Thank you for volunteering and for setting that up. Lisa's setting up a e-waste recycling event. So if you have a bunch of old e-waste, computer screens, I don't know all the stuff, but keep it and
We'll tell you.
Yes, we'll tell you, and we're going to try to be putting it to the correct place. So thank you very much for that, Lisa. We'll make sure we get you added and informed about everything that's happening. And of course, if anyone else is interested in joining, feel free to let myself or any of the other board members know. And the Chipotle event, is there a time for that, Jack? Is it all day? Do you want to?
I don't think, normally it's like from 4 until 8. I don't know. I think Dave had the flyer. I was gonna look to see if I had gotten one.
Okay, stay tuned on our email, social. We'll try to advertise it out to you. Basically, you order from Chipotle and then we get a portion of the proceeds. And of course, with COVID, you can order to go and all of that. So stay tuned. And the reason that our fundraising committee is doing these things is actually leads us into our next committee update, or no, not our next one, but it's for our scholarship and trying to raise funds for our students over at Hiram Johnson. So I will pass it over to Bill with our land use committee update.
Thank you. I was going to dedicate our time on land use, but I see that number 9 is unfinished business regarding the UC Davis Aggie Square EIR letter. So the last 2 months, the land use committee has been working diligently on a response to that EIR. I heard Sandra in the audience. I heard Tiffany in the audience. I don't know if other land use committee members are there, but Tiffany and Aniela did a great deal of work on this, as did everybody. So I'm going to, with everyone's permission, I'm going to kick this over to Tiffany if you're still there.
I'm still here. So clarification, since Aggie Square unfinished business is 9, should I just go ahead and talk about the letter now? That's okay? Okay. So for those of you who aren't familiar with land use, the Aggie Square project recently put out an environmental impact report on the long range development plan that they had to update in order to account for Aggie Square. And so CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, is what mandates an environmental impact report be created. And there's certain topics that a project proponent has to address with respects to impact on the community. So the land use has been working on the comments. We had 45 days from the time that the draft EIR was released to put our comments together. So I want to talk with you a little bit about what we did quickly. So first of all, the document is 800 pages long. So a couple of us read that document cover to cover to understand all of the data that was put out there and all of the impacts that they indicated there would be, because as part of the California Environmental Quality Act, you have to disclose if you think you're going to have an impact that you can't lessen. So there's a couple areas where they did disclose that they're going to have impacts that they can't lessen, one of which is air quality due to an increase in PM10 and greenhouse gas emissions from cars, predominantly traffic to the site. Because at full build out, they estimate about 21,000 people will be commuting to and from UC Davis on a daily basis. They also indicated that there would be significant impacts that couldn't be lessened in the area of transit due to buses getting stuck behind lines of cars that basically get congested on the roads. So those are the two places that they indicated that they couldn't impact to what they call a less than significant level. So after the land use committee digested the document, either those folks that opted to read it in full or the individuals that dove into sections, we had meetings about it. We then reached out to experts in certain areas to get their opinion of the data and the analysis to see if they agreed with our interpretation of the document. So we met with some city transportation staff. We talked to some folks who actually helped write the CEQA code around population and housing. And we talked to some air quality folks that are part of the air quality management district. We reached out to transit, but we were unable to get a response there. We also had meetings with folks from the Sacramento Investment Without Displacement. So all of that went into the comment letter that the LUC wrote. And we raised some concerns with impacts around transportation. So, the very start of this meeting, there were concerns about traffic on 14th and 21st. So we raised concerns about traffic, not only, just in the Tahoe Park area in general, but that we felt as though their plans for how they were going to lessen the impact weren't substantial enough. We raised concerns with population and housing, projections with respects to how many people they say will be displaced by the project. We also had concerns about the data that they're using to understand how people are getting to and from UC Davis. Again, we think that that's going to continue to cause traffic impacts in the neighborhood. We had concerns about wastewater quality, groundwater recharge, air quality. I don't know, it was a 6-page letter. So there's a lot of things that we addressed. We could have done more, but quite honestly, we were out of time. I mean, we pushed it pretty much right up until Sunday, drafting the letter. Again, an 800-page document is a lot to digest. So that is what we bring to the board tonight. The comments are due on Wednesday, so we need to turn this around quite quickly. Isaac.
Thank you. Appreciate that summary and appreciate all of your work and everyone who you worked with and the LUC. And I will just say that I think this is a really good example of a time where I hope our neighbors will have faith in the board they elected, and then who the board, gave the charge to do this work. I perused the document today. It is extensive, it is comprehensive. You guys should all be proud of it. Even if you as a board member maybe didn't read it, or you as a neighbor watching right now didn't read it, I want you to have full faith that it is something that we should not only fully support, but be damn proud that it was gotten done in the time allowed. So I'm sure people might want to discuss it further, get into it. I will say it's heavily technical, and without that 800-page document as reference, it may not all make sense, but I have full faith, Tiffany, Bill, everyone who is involved, Sandra, on your input on it, and I fully support it. And if there is a discussion, I will wait to see if there is more discussion, but I will make a motion to approve us officially sending this document along.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you so much for that presentation and for all the work. I mean, you guys have worked really, really hard, and we're very grateful and lucky to have all of you. And I support the letter also. I just kind of wanted to ask, just taking a step back, and thanks so much for being in the weeds. What's kind of your perception on the things that really stand out as that worry you the most, just as someone who lives in Tahoe Park and commutes from Tahoe Park? You mentioned traffic, but just kind of like curious about an overall kind of thought about what the biggest red flags are.
Well, I can speak from my perspective, and then I was perusing who was here. I think all of the land use committee is here, so I definitely invite other people to speak up. But I think for me, there's a few kind of overarching concerns. I think my first overarching concern is that UC Davis pretty much shifts the blame and the responsibility for all of the things that need to be done to lessen the impact of this project to other agencies. There's very little that UC Davis is actually committing to doing themselves. So all of the big capital road improvement projects that would need to be done to lessen the impacts that result from traffic, they're offloading to the city. The issues around air quality, they're offloading to the air management district. The issues around traffic, they say they're offloading to RT with no real offer of support. I mean, literally, that's what they say. We will support, right? And so I think first and foremost, that's a concern for me, especially given that our city is coming up on some really lean times. I mean, you've probably read, right, the articles in the paper about the fact that right now, like the revenues that the city thought they were going to have to repay bond debt isn't there. So, and I think that the city is probably supportive of projects like these because they do sales tax and property tax, but neither sales tax nor property tax fund traffic projects, regional transit, or housing. So I think that that's a big concern for me. I think traffic is huge. I mean, 21,000 people at full build out. Aggie Square, approximately 8,000 people is what they project it's going to bring. So you can only imagine, again, they don't have a real understanding of how many people that get to UC Davis are in single occupancy vehicles versus bus versus, whatnot. So, I have a huge concern about how much traffic that's going to bring on the streets. I mean, I, for one, live right on Broadway. I've had my cars hit and run when they've been parked 4 times now because of people speeding on that street. So, I mean, and, pedestrians, I mean, Tahoe Park is completely surrounded by high traffic roadways and in order to access services. So if we truly want to walk or bike, we're going to have to do something about traffic calming on our roads. So that was a concern for me. I think air quality, the idea that they're basically saying the air quality is going to be crap. It's going to be over the standards that our air district is saying are healthy for us. That's extremely concerning to me. And I think, the displacement, Tahoe Park in relationship to some of the other neighborhoods has a higher, home ownership rate than renter rate. But I think that there's a lot of predatory lending that happens when property values start to go up as a result of gentrification. So I think you could see the demographics of the community really shift. I think you're going to have a lot of renters displaced as homeowners want to cash in on those property value increases and so displace people that way. And so, yeah, that for me, I think those are the big red flags. I mean, not to say that positive things can't come out of this, right? Like some phenomenal research comes out of UC Davis. And there's really blanket statements about 40,000 square feet of commercial that they think is going to be resident serving. So whatever that 40,000 square feet of commercial is that they think the residents are going to want to go to, like that could be a really positive thing. But I just think we need to get out in front and advocate that they do more to potentially try and lessen the impacts, you know, when they're basically plopping themselves in the middle of our neighborhoods. So, but yeah, some of the other folks might have other concerns and or just agree that that's what they took away from it as well.
Sandra, did you want to add something?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Rose. I did. You're absolutely right, Tiffany. And that was like my big red flag was traffic and air pollution and the impact it's going to have there. And then to echo, I think what you've said about, you know, shifting that blame. I don't know if you saw that B article today that not only are they shift blaming, but they've shut out the communities as well because they don't want to hear from us. So thank you so much, Isaac. I really appreciate your support and your comments related to your motion to support the letter, because one of the things that I've seen with EIRs is if you don't, you know, if you don't say anything, you know, then there was no problem with the EIR. So I really appreciate that and moving this forward. And I don't know if there was a second on the motion, but I'd like to second it. Thank you.
And then if I could real quick, I see Zach Miller asked a question specifically related to the VMT analysis. So Zach, we did address VMT in our letter. We actually found that there was a conflict, an internal conflict in the document, in that in the transportation section, they use SACOG's MTP SES projection, like, you know, the modeling, to basically say that this type of development has low VMT. We're in a low VMT area, therefore less than significant. Yet if you look at the section around greenhouse gas emissions, they actually do an analysis of what the VMT increase will be and say that because of that VMT increase, there is a significant unavoidable impact. So we do talk directly to the VMT analysis and raise the issue of internal conflict in the document.
Then anyone else have any other questions or any other, was that Bill? Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Rose. I'd just like to add, thank you, great presentation, Tiffany. But I'd just like to add also on a parallel track, the LUC has also been working specifically in response to Councilman Guerra's suggestion at our last meeting, or one of our recent meetings, that we develop some specific asks of UCD. So while we're working diligently on this EIR, we've also been working on some specific asks to address many of the issues that I think will be of a great concern to the community. Whereas the EIR was, our response to the EIR was more specific to that. So I just wanted to let everybody know that in addition to that, we've also, which we will be bringing to you, by the way, probably at our October meeting, our specific asks, and that time, and perhaps even before, we'll get a chance to talk about them in greater detail that we're not able to do right now with the EIR response. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Christina, did you want to join? We can't hear you.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. I was just going to ask Isaac and Sandra if we could amend the motion to also send a copy of the letter to essentially the elected officials that we sent our original Aggie Square letter to. So the mayor, council member Chenier and Guerra, and Assemblymember McCarty and Dr. Pan, Senator Pan. I think it's important to keep them aware of the issues as we're moving forward.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Christina. I saw your email. I'm sorry, I should have brought that up in my original motion. But yes, absolutely in support of that. In addition, posting to our website at the conclusion of this meeting. Tiffany, I did open the letter in Google Docs, and there were a couple of typos toward the end, just spelling errors. So maybe you want to throw in one more different word processor before you all hit send before Wednesday. But yeah, totally. We got a motion and second to support the document and transmit not only to where it needs to go for response to the EIR, but also share with all electeds and get it up on our website so our neighbors can see.
Right. I will also add, I am very appreciative of the Land Use Committee They have probably spent hundreds of hours on this collectively, and they are not paid. They're volunteers. So very appreciative of all of the work that they've done on this and all of the work they do on a lot of our issues related to land use. So we're very lucky to have them helping us out. So I have a motion and a second. I would like to take a vote. So everyone in favor of sending this letter, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will send out that letter and we'll have it posted on our website as soon as possible, definitely before the Wednesday deadline. Thank you again to all of your work, Land Use Committee. Bill, did you have a scholarship update? Because we were kind of in the middle of committee reports and I want to give you an opportunity to give us a scholarship update.
Nothing new at this time. I heard from a couple of the kids, but the semester hadn't started yet. So we're waiting for them to submit their documentation.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business. Do we have any new business? All right, moving on to...
Jim's had his hand up.
I think he's in public comments and announcements.
Can I throw one out there?
New business?
Yes. I'm remiss in updating my dues membership because I haven't been seeing anybody to do that. So I'll see Isaac and make sure I get some money that way, but I'm probably not the only person that falls in that category. And I didn't receive anything electronically say, here's how easy it is for you to submit some, renew your dues membership. So that's something maybe the board can look at to enhance renewals.
Just put it in the chat for you, James. But Jim, you live down the street from me. I could yell at you and get the money right now. So no excuses.
Well, I'm not there. I'm in Phoenix for a week. So I'll see you next week, Isaac. Get it to you.
I'll put an envelope on your truck windshield wiper. You come bring it back.
Okay.
That is a good reminder for everyone else, though. Thank you for reminding us that the membership link is in the chat. So if you'd like to become a member, you can do so there.
$10 is the minimum. You can give more.
Yes, $10
Go buy pizza for the LUC so they can do all that hard work.
If you don't want to pay it through PayPal or something like that, you can always mail it to our PO Box 162162 SAC 95816.
And I'm putting a link to the form you can print out and mail in the chat too. So you can print out that form and do just what Jack said.
So moving on to public comment, I do have
by the
Michelle
way,
Paris.
include that every time with your notice of the meeting. You might have it included there, the opportunity to update your member fee.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. We appreciate it. Michelle, are you still on the line?
I am.
Announcement. Okay.
I'm still here.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Awesome. Hi, Michelle Parasite here. I'm a resident here in Tahoe Park. I live over on 12th Avenue. I'm also on the No on Measure A campaign committee against Strong Mayor. Strong Mayor has reared its ugly head again. It was just 6 short years ago that we defeated this on the ballot, and now it's back. I'm going to put a link here to our website, nowaymeasurea.com. Hope everyone will take a look at that. It's got our ballot arguments in there and our endorsements. There's a lot of folks, just like last time, who are opposed to Measure A and Strong Mayor, including former Mayor Heather Fargo, the firefighters, the Democratic Party of Sacramento County, several sitting council members, and a few, or at least one councilwoman-elect. Our Sacramento is a city of neighborhoods, and Tahoe Park is a proud neighborhood. And I would personally hate to see our neighborhoods lose their power. I'm a little disappointed that Councilmember Guerra dropped off. I would love to hear, he does support Measure A, and so I was hoping to hear his reasoning why he would vote to put this on the ballot. Because it does take our neighborhood power away. It gives our council members less power. And it allows the mayor to, not have to go to council meetings anymore, to not be subject to the Brown Act in that way, the same way that he is now, to do, line item budget vetoes. And it makes it so that, that one person has even more power in the city. And I think, our neighborhoods, our community has been crying out for more accountability and transparency. And it seems like a very strange time for me to think of our mayor and council wanting to consolidate more power in the mayor rather than to distribute power. You can like this mayor and not like strong mayor. Lots of folks like Mayor Steinberg, but it isn't about Mayor Steinberg. It's about every mayor that comes after him. Running a city is a tough job, and that's why we have professional city managers who do it. I don't know. I can't imagine, Kevin Johnson, for example, deciding how we run waste management. Our mayors to this point have largely been our city's cheerleaders. They're capable of doing great policy work, but the day-to-day running of a city should be left to professionals, in my opinion. I am available for questions at any time. I'll drop my phone number in the chat. And if folks would like to discuss further, I'm happy to do that. I hope that this neighborhood association will take an opposed position, as almost every neighborhood association that we have talked to has. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next meeting is October, so we still have one more meeting before we vote, right? Okay. I see we have another neighbor, Jim, who would like to share an announcement or a public comment.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little bit quiet, but go ahead.
Try to get closer. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Come on. Okay. Yeah, my concern, big concern, that we have a crisis in polarization in our country. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. To the point where, people on either side of the aisle are shooting each other at this point. That's a big concern for me. I don't think that's what we ought to be doing. So what I've been looking into is an organization called Braver Angels, which is a bipartisan group organized to promote civil discourse. Sacramento does have a chapter of that. It is all over the United States, but I'd like to bring it into Tahoe Park. So what I would like to do is see if anybody's interested, but I would like to ask you to look on YouTube, to look at the Braver Angel debates, and that will give you about a very quick understanding of what this organization does. It is a nonprofit all across the United States. And what I would like is, I would like to build an affiliation with that organization for Tahoe Park, so we can talk about things without insult or belittling somebody who sees things different than I do or you do. So what I'd like is, if people are interested, to look at that YouTube, but also if they want to get an affiliation with the Braver Angels, to talk to me or call me or email me, and we can work together to do that. Or if you're interested, that's fine. Or if you know somebody that's interested, whether it's a neighbor or a teacher or a firefighter or a policeman or a student, a church member, a business person, I think we really need to start learning how to work together and get rid of some of this hatred. So that's my pitch.
Thanks, Jim. Did you want to leave your contact information in the chat in case somebody would like to?
How do I do that, Rose? I can, do you turn it on here? How do you, I see the chat down here at the bottom of the page.
Isaac, our tech guru.
I got him.
Okay, thanks. Isaac will help you.
Number
Thanks, Jim.
370
Was that 916-370?
559.
370.
8559. 8559? Yeah,
Yep.
that, can you do an email also?
Sure.
Okay. It's J accordion. J,
Like the musical instrument and accordion.
yeah, J accordion at 714@gmail.com. Can you write that in there too?
Yep, we got it. I'm on it.
We got it. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for trying to help us come together in this divisive time. Braver Angels, I will say, is an organization that I found very helpful as well.
Really good. Oh, you got it. Wonderful.
And do we have any other public comment or announcements from anyone? Was that Kelly? Did you have one?
Your hand's invisible.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to announce tomorrow there is a car caravan hosted by Councilmember Guerra, some people from Sac State and City College and many other community organizations around Prop 16. For those of you who don't know, Prop 16 is going to be on the ballot in November, and it allows race and gender to be looked at for university decisions and other hiring decisions. It's the same as 41 other states. It repeals Prop 209. And it's just this really great measure that will help with equity. We've seen the research. This is really a great thing that can happen. And so that's a proposition that's on the ballot. And there's a kind of fun car caravan, and it starts at the community college at 11:30, and that's on Wednesday. And I'll put the event link in the chat as well.
Thank you for sharing. Another way for our neighbors to get involved. You all said you wanted to be active and get involved, so here's all the ways. Okay, any other public comments or announcements?
Kelly, I assume that the Halloween is verboten this year.
We are we're gonna get creative and find ways to do something for Halloween. We're looking at different social media options with some voting for costumes and house decorations. And we will meet to figure out what we can do, even if it's just small. But you can't.
Sounds fantastic. Great.
We all can't hide from Halloween. I'm sure everyone's kids are already talking about Halloween costumes, and so we'll find a way.
Oh, yeah, my grandkids already got one.
There could be a lot of creative costumes this year. Okay, anyone else? Going once, going twice, making sure I'm not missing anything in mine. Oh, Wide Open Walls is happening. So if you would like to, you can look virtually at what the muralists are painting around Sacramento. And seeing no other comments, I really appreciate everyone being here tonight. Our next meeting, we will be here on Monday, October 5th at 7 p.m. So mark your calendar, tell all of your neighbors to join us, and we will see you then. Have a wonderful evening, be safe, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rose. Thanks,
Bye,
Andy.
Bye-bye.